So in 1842, a Russian author published a story about, of all things, a low-level government clerk buying a winter coat.
Right, which, I mean, on its face, sounds like the most boring premise imaginable.
Honestly, yeah. It sounds like a total snooze. But yet this single story fundamentally shook the Russian Empire and totally rewired modern literature.
It did. It is quite literally the foundation of the psychological realism that we just expect in storytelling today.
Well, welcome back to the deep dive. And a very special welcome to you, the learner. Our mission today is to really unpack how a slightly absurd, highly detailed story about extreme frugality and, well, the soul-crushing nature of bureaucracy became this massive cultural pillar.
Now, we're looking at a very specific source for this.
Right, we have a Turkish edition and this brilliant editorial analysis of Nikolai Gogol's legendary novella, The Overcoat, or Palto in our source text.
Yeah, Pelto.
It's a piece of work so defining that decades later, Fyodor Dostoevsky famously claimed, and people love quoting this, "We all came out of Gogol's Overcoat."
Okay, let's unpack this. What did he actually mean? Well, so that quote gets tossed around a lot, right?
Mhm.
But what Dostoevsky really meant was that before Gogol, literary heroes they were grand.
Like epic heroes.
Exactly. They were brave knights or brilliant detectives or just, people of action. And Gogol inverted that completely.
He went the total opposite direction.
Totally.
Yeah.
He basically invented the archetype of the little man. And in doing so, he mapped out the whole psychological landscape of Russian literature for the next century.
Which is wild for a story about a coat. But to really grasp why a coat had that kind of seismic impact, we first need to look at the freezing, oppressive reality of Russia from the 1820s to the 1840s.
Oh, absolutely. So we are talking about the reign of Tsar Nicholas I.
Right.
And the defining event of this era was the aftermath of the 1825 Decembrist revolt.
This was the military uprising, right?
Yeah, military officers and intellectuals tried to limit the Tsar's absolute power with a constitution. And the Tsar's response was just brutal.
I mean, he didn't hold back at all.
No, the leaders were either executed or exiled straight to Siberia. This basically ushered in an era of intense censorship and state control.
And our source mentions this specific term for it, right?
Yeah, Russian cultural history actually calls this period the Seven Dark Years.
Because the secret police were just everywhere. I mean, just expressing an independent thought could be construed as literal treason against the monarchy.
And against the serfdom system, yeah. So in this kind of paranoid environment, writers had to be incredibly clever.
You couldn't exactly just tweet a hot take.
Right, you couldn't publish a political manifesto critiquing the state, or you'd be arrested immediately.
So they hid it.
Exactly. You had to hide your critiques within these seemingly harmless stories about everyday life. Which actually brings us to the fascinating origin of the overcoat.
Oh, the party story. I love this part.
Yeah, Gogol didn't just invent this out of thin air. He based it on a true story that he overheard at a party.
Tell them the real story, because this is so sad but so revealing.
So the story goes that there was this poor, obscure clerk who had one great passion in life, and that was hunting.
Okay, sure.
And he saved up his meager wages for years. I mean, through sheer deprivation, just to buy a custom hunting rifle.
This was his big dream.
His one dream. And the very first time he takes it out on a boat, it gets caught in the reeds and falls right into the water.
Oh, no.
It's lost forever. The guy goes home, falls severely ill, and nearly dies of grief.
Which is just awful.
It is. He only survives because his friends basically take pity on him, pool all their money together, and buy him a replacement rifle.
Okay, but the kicker here is how the people at the party reacted when Gogol heard this story.
Right, because they roared with laughter.
They thought it was hilarious.
They thought it was the funniest joke they had ever heard.
See, that reminds me so much of how we consume internet fail videos today.
Oh, that's a great comparison.
Right, like we watch a clip of someone dropping a beautiful birthday cake they clearly spent all day making, or tripping and ruining something they clearly love, and we just laugh. We consume their misfortune as entertainment.
We completely detach from the person's feelings.
Exactly. But Gogol's genius was refusing to laugh at the joke. He looked at that clerk and saw a profound human tragedy.
He really did. And he took that devastating real-world inspiration and transformed it into his fictional protagonist.
Our main character.
Yes, Akaki Akakievich Bashmashin.
We have to talk about that name, because Gogol is setting this poor guy up for tragedy from the very first syllable.
Oh, the name is so deliberate. His surname, Bashmakin, derives from the word for shoe.
Right, but our source text explicitly points out the irony here, because his entire family, his father, his grandfather, his brother-in-law, they only ever wore boots.
It's hilarious. It's this brilliant, subtle nod to how disconnected he is from his own identity,
And then there's his first name, Akaki.
which roughly translates to harmless or lacking malice. And the way he gets this name is just so pathetic. He was given it almost by default.
Because at his baptism, his mother was offered this list of bizarre calendar names, right?
Yeah, things like Mokia, Zosia, Hazdazat.
Which, I mean, even for the time, were completely outlandish.
Right, so she rejects them all. She says she's literally never heard of them. So the priest just flips the page and offers Tarifali, Dula, and Varahasi.
Like he's just pulling random syllables out of a hat.
Exactly. And she essentially gives up. She says, you know what, let him just be named after his father.
Akakayabis.
Right, so from the very beginning, his existence is framed as absurd, inevitable, and just entirely stripped of glamour.
And his professional life is just as bleak, honestly. He is a low-ranking titular counselor.
Which requires a bit of context for us to fully appreciate today.
Yeah, what does that actually mean for him?
To understand his misery, we have to look at the table of ranks, which was established by Peter the Great. This system categorized every government worker, military officer, and noble into a rigid hierarchy of 14 ranks.
A system that essentially defined your entire worth as a human being in Russian society at the time.
Precisely. Rank 1 was the very top. Think like an admiral or a state chancellor.
And our guy, Akaki.
Akaki is a rank 9, a titular counselor.
Middle of the pack, but not in a good way.
It was actually a really cruel level to be stuck at.
Yeah.
Because technically, rank 9 granted you a form of personal nobility. You had a title.
So you sound important on paper.
Exactly. But it came with virtually no actual power, no prestige, and barely enough money to survive. It was this perpetual bureaucratic purgatory.
So he's essentially a human photocopier. He's just a copy clerk. And because of this low status, he is relentlessly bullied by his coworkers.
The bullying is awful.
They dump torn paper on his head and call it snow. And his only defense is this heartbreaking plea. He doesn't yell. He just looks up and says, "Leave me alone. Why do you torment me?"
And our text notes that these words actually haunt one young coworker who suddenly realizes that this pathetic plea sounds exactly like, "I am your brother."
It's this piercing moment of empathy in this otherwise sea of bureaucratic cruelty. But what I find truly fascinating is how Akaki actually survives this reality.
Right, because he doesn't fight back at all.
No. He retreats entirely into his work. He has an absolute obsession with copying documents.
He really does. He smiles at certain letters. His face lights up when he gets to draw his favorite characters.
He is entirely in his own bubble. I mean, at one point, he's walking down the street and a horse places its head on his shoulder and breathes directly onto his cheek.
And only then does he realize he's not looking at a manuscript.
It's crazy. The copying is his sanctuary. It reminds me of someone living in a chaotic, crumbling, noisy apartment building who just hyperfixates on building these intricate, perfect model ships.
Or maybe like playing a really cozy, repetitive video game where you just farm and organize things for hours.
Exactly. It's a flow state. It's the 19th century equivalent of putting on noise-canceling headphones and doom scrolling, just to have a sense of control in a world that is otherwise completely uncontrollable.
That is an incredibly accurate way to frame his psychology. It's purely a coping mechanism.
Right.
But this protective aesthetic bubble is violently popped by the one thing you absolutely cannot ignore if you live in St. Petersburg.
The brutal winter frost.
Brutal winter frost, the ultimate reality check.
Yeah, because Akaki earns only 400 rubles a year. And his winter coat has worn so thin over the years that his coworkers mockingly call it a dressing gown.
So the cold literally forces him to face reality. And Gogol embodies that harsh reality in the character of the tailor, Petrovich.
Oh, Petrovich. What a description. He lives on the 4th floor up this dark, foul-smelling, ammonia-soaked back staircase.
Just incredibly bleak.
And the way Gogol introduces him is so visceral. He's a pockmarked, one-eyed alcoholic. And when Akaki walks in, the very first thing he sees is Petrovich's bare foot.
Specifically, this deformed big toe.
With a nail as thick and hard as a turtle shell.
It's such a grotesque detail. And then there is Petrovich's snuff box.
Right, it features a portrait of a general, but the face has been completely rubbed out and covered by a square paper patch. Okay, here's where it gets really interesting for me. Gogol uses these incredibly ugly, grounded, microscopic details for a reason, right?
Oh, absolutely.
He is violently snapping a copy on us as the reader out of that dreamy, floating state of copying letters. He is slamming a cocky into the harsh, physical, expensive world.
And expensive is the key word, because Petrovich coldly refuses to patch the ruined coat.
He says a single gust of wind would disintegrate the fabric.
Right, and he demands 150 rubles for a brand new one.
Which, to a guy making 400 rubles a whole year, is an astronomical, panic-inducing fortune.
The mere word new makes Akaki's vision blur.
He practically faints.
They eventually negotiate the price down to 80 rubles. But even that reduced price requires Akaki to completely restructure his entire existence.
I mean, think about the most you have ever sacrificed to buy something you desperately needed. Eating instant ramen for a month. Skipping a vacation.
Sure.
Now imagine doing that just to afford a basic piece of clothing so you don't literally freeze to death on your walk to work.
And the math is brutal. Akaki already has 40 rubles, saved up in a small coin box, gathered half a kopeck at a time over years.
Which is impressive in itself.
It really is.
Mm-hmm.
But for the remaining 40 rubles, he puts himself on a literal starvation diet. He stops drinking evening tea.
He sits in the dark without lighting candles.
He actually walks on his tiptoes over the cobblestones so he doesn't wear out the soles of his shoes, just to save money on the cobbler.
Wait, really? Just
Yeah.
walking on his tiptoes?
Yes. And at home, he takes off his clothes immediately and wears only this old cotton nightgown so his uniform doesn't get damaged.
He is stripping away every single physical comfort. But what the source text highlights, which I find so fascinating, is that this period of extreme deprivation actually nourishes him spiritually.
It gives him a purpose.
Yeah, the idea of the coat becomes, as the translation notes, a pleasant life partner. He's no longer alone. He stops being so hesitant.
His eyes gain a spark of purpose. He even dares to dream of putting marten fur on the collar.
Which is a huge leap for him. Now, so what does this all mean? Some people might read that and think he's just become materialistic, obsessed with a physical status symbol.
Right, like he's just trying to flex.
Exactly, but I don't see it that way at all. It feels much more like someone today who saves for months to buy a highly customized wheelchair or a really necessary hearing aid.
That's a great analogy.
It's not a luxury flex. It's a desperate bid for basic human dignity. It is the right to exist visibly and safely in society without being mocked or freezing.
That aligns perfectly with his transformation, and eventually he gets a lucky break.
He gets a bonus, right?
Yeah, a holiday bonus comes in at 60 rubles instead of the expected 45, and that extra money pushes him over the finish line.
The extreme sacrifice makes the payoff incredibly sweet. Petrovich delivers the coat, charging 12 rubles for his meticulous labor. And when Akaki walks into the office, for the first time in his entire life, he is the center of attention.
Everyone praises the coat.
They love it. He is practically forced to attend a celebratory evening party hosted by a sub-chief.
But this party forces Akaki to traverse the geography of St. Petersburg at night. He walks through wealthy, well-lit neighborhoods. It's a completely alien world to him.
Right.
He even sees a risque painting of a woman in a shop window and smiles, feeling this rare flicker of lively humanity and desire.
But the party ends at midnight, and he has to walk home.
And as he walks, the geography of the city changes.
The lights fade away.
He leaves the bright lights behind and has to cross this vast, dark, terrifying, desert-like square. The text describes it almost like an ocean of darkness.
Just completely exposed.
And out of that darkness, two men emerge. One of them, noted specifically for his large mustache, grabs Akaki, shouts, "This coat is mine!" beats him, and leaves him face down in the freezing snow.
Which raises a really tragic question. Did the very coat that brought Akaki out of his safe, invisible shell actually put a target on his back?
Oh, wow.
By trying to participate in society, by leaving his protective bubble, did he just seal his own doom?
Well, he certainly exposed himself to the predators of that society. But the physical assault in the snow doesn't actually kill him.
It doesn't.
No, it is the institutional coldness he faces the next day that is fatal.
Ah, the bureaucracy.
Exactly. The systems designed to protect citizens fail completely. The watchman stationed near the square basically ignores the robbery, later claiming he thought the thieves were just Akaki's friends.
Convenient excuse.
Very. And the next day, the police chief, instead of making a report, interrogates Akaki.
He victim blames him.
Yes. He accusingly asks why he was out so late and whether he'd been visiting a brothel.
So the system completely shuts him out. It forces Akaki to seek help higher up the chain. He manages to get an audience with a character known only as the very important person, or the VIP.
And this VIP has recently been promoted and is completely obsessed with discipline and hierarchy. He forces people to wait outside his door just to prove he can.
Classic power trip.
Exactly. And when Akaki finally gets in and stammers out his plea for help, the VIP happens to be sitting with a childhood friend he hasn't seen in years.
Oh, so he has an audience. So he uses Akaki as a prop. He screams at this poor, traumatized clerk. He yells, "Do you know who you are talking to? Do you realize who stands before you?"
It's brutal.
Which really makes you ask why the bureaucracy operates this way. It's not just that the system is slow or inefficient. In a rigidly hierarchical society, especially one under extreme censorship, how do you prove you have power?
You assert it over someone who has none.
Exactly. The VIP can't flex his power upward toward the czar. That would be treason.
Right, he'd be exiled.
So the only way to validate his own existence and his newly acquired status is to actively abuse the people below him. The system wasn't designed to serve the citizens. The citizens exist to serve the system and to feed the fragile egos of the powerful.
And the verbal abuse is so violent that Akaki actually faints right there in the office.
He just collapses.
He wanders home in a blizzard, completely broken in spirit, and contracts a fatal fever.
And even then, the system fails him.
Yes. The final insult comes from the doctor, who dismissively prescribes a hot poultice, tells the landlady to go ahead and buy a cheap pine coffin because oak is too expensive, and basically writes Akaki off while he's still breathing.
And so Akaki hallucinates cursing the VIP in his fever dreams, actually, and he dies. He leaves behind nothing but a quill, some paper, 3 pairs of socks, and his old, ruined dressing gown.
It is a devastating, brutal synthesis of Gogol's systemic critique. The machine simply consumes the weak.
It's so dark.
It is. But just when you think you are reading a bleak, entirely depressing social commentary, Gogol completely flips the genre in the final pages.
Oh, yes, we go full supernatural.
We do. We get a ghostly epilogue. Rumors begin to spread that a corpse resembling Akaki is haunting the Kalinkin Bridge area.
Haunting the bridge and doing what?
This ghost is ripping coats off the backs of everyone who crosses his path.
And it doesn't matter who they are.
Not at all. It doesn't matter what your rank in the table of ranks is. It doesn't matter what type of fur you're wearing. Cat, beaver, raccoon, bear. The ghost takes it all.
It is an absolute leveling of the playing field. Death and the ghost don't care about your rank. And it builds perfectly to the VIP's comeuppance.
Oh, the VIP.
The VIP actually feels a tiny twinge of guilt about how he treated Akaki. So, to shake it off, he goes to a party, drinks some champagne, and decides to visit his mistress, Carolyn Ivanovna, across town.
But on his way there, the corpse-like ghost of Akaki appears.
Yes.
It grabs the VIP by the collar, terrifies him with the smell of the grave, and says, "It's your coat I need." And the ghost rips his luxurious coat right off his back.
It's so satisfying.
The VIP is so traumatized that he rushes home, completely changes his arrogant behavior, and actually stops yelling at his subordinates.
It is like a 19th century revenge thriller. When human justice completely fails, the universe just has to step in. The story has to literally break the rules of reality to give us the cosmic justice we so deeply crave.
It is a deeply satisfying narrative resolution to what is, honestly, an incredibly unfair reality.
As we wrap up this deep dive, I really want you to think about the Akakis in your own world. The invisible people, the clerks, the maintenance workers, the people keeping the gears of our offices and our cities turning. How does our society treat them? Are they seen as people with hopes and dignity, or just disposable cogs in a machine?
That is a vital question to carry with you. But before we go, I do want to leave you with one final chilling twist found right at the very end of our source text.
Oh, right, the ending.
Because after the VIP is robbed and learns his lesson, the ghost attacks of the little clerk seem to stop entirely.
The ghost is avenged.
Right. But wait. A watchman in a completely different part of the city spots a different ghost.
A completely different ghost.
The watchman sees a ghost that is much taller, and when the watchman confronts it, the phantom turns around, threatens the watchman with a massive, very solid fist, and just walks off into the night.
And what was the defining feature of this new ghost?
A huge mustache.
Which changes everything, because wasn't one of the original thieves who robbed Akaki in the dark square described specifically as a man with a large mustache?
Indeed he was.
So it really forces you to wonder, was Akaki ever really the ghost on the bridge? Or did the very real, very human thieves just use the convenient rumor of a supernatural clerk as a brilliant cover-up for a citywide crime spree?
It's a great question.
Did the system that crushed Akaki in life just use his memory to steal more coats? That is a thought to mull over long after you take your headphones off.